Go time. G'day everyone, DJ DARQs here for another, couch chat thing. It's not really a couch, it's my chair, but whatever. It's been a while since I've done a 2DX tutorial, and this is one that I've been putting off for a really long time just because I wanted to make sure that I nailed everything in this. Someone mentioned a while ago to me that they were struggling to understand some of the 2DX terminology that often comes up when people are talking about the game. And I wanted to cover the majority of terminology for people who either don't have a background in any other music game or just in general are a little bit confused when we toss up terms and things like that. So this video is mainly just to outline what people are talking about when they're talking about things like, trills and jacks and 24th streams and things like that. So I guess at the very start, every single music game, as you'd expect, follows the same rules as standard music notation. Now, I might not be 100% right. I'm going off what I know. So if I've got something wrong, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, obviously I'll try and amend it or make sure that people are aware if I've said something wrong. Let's get stuck straight in. I've chosen Quasar for the main example just because it's got a lot of the basic notation which you find in most charts. So at the very start, when you're just, picking up the game for the first time, most of the game will be quarter notes. Now, what is a quarter note? Let me just play Quasar here real quick. The start of this. Okay, that. So, that is what we call quarter notes. And a quarter note means that in every measure, so there's like a bunch of bars. You'll see in between the notes, there's bars that are scrolling. That's called a measure. And in every measure, quarter note just means that there are four of those types of notations within the bar. And it sounds like this. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that, right? It's very straightforward. So quarter notes are the first kind of note which most people will encounter in the game. It's just very easy. You might get a da, then a da, then a da. So every like second quarter note in a beginner chart or something. And then as you work up, you just start hitting like, quarter note streams and things like that. So yeah, quarter notes are probably the simplest note. You'll find that most bass beats follow the quarter note. So, like doof, 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 doof. That's what, like doof, doof music sounds like. Anyway, up from that, the next step from a quarter note is what we call an eighth note. And an eighth note is, as you'd expect, just double the amount of notes in the measure. So if you have dun 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 in your bass, then you just add a note in between each one of those, which sounds a little bit like this. So as you can see there, you've got dun 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 dun, and then you've got a crash at the end of it. So you go. So those are known as eighth notes. Eighth notes are twice as fast as quarter notes. So simple. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So very straightforward. Absolute basics, right? So everyone can get that down. Quarter note, eighth note. And once again, that normally follows the bass or a snare or some sort of pattern. Like most rock patterns will follow that sort of beat. And you might get a crash, so it's like. So that's mostly eighth notes. Like those are the sort of patterns that you'll see with eighth notes. I'll keep going with the video here. So there we go. We've got some eighth notes, all right, which is pretty standard. Now, when we reach here, the next step up naturally. So if you times the next value, so 4 by 2 is 8. 8 by 2 is 16, and the next set, obviously, is 16th notes. And 16th notes sound a little bit like this. Okay, so 16th notes, once again, is just a step up from 8s. If 8s you got, then 16ths are the next step, which is just. So it sounds just a little bit faster. It's just double the amount of notes in between each time. So most 2DX charts will follow that music notation, fourths, eighths, and 16ths. That makes up the majority of the timing that you'll see in most charts. So if you know the different timings, then you can go, okay, so you've got your quarter, sorry, your quarter notes or your fourths, your eighths, and then your sixteenths. And most things will fall into that. Now, it's worth noting here that when you've got a bunch of those notes in succession, you have what we call a stream of notes. So what you saw just then in Quasar, this is referred to as 16th stream. It's a stream of notes that are at a constant musical notation. So it's just constant 16th bursts of da 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 da. So that's what we call a 16th stream. Okay? Now, when you get a little bit further on, if you've got breaks in it, like you'll see in a second with Quasar, once it comes up. So say you've got a stream, but there's breaks in between the stream, as you'll see here. So here it goes, like that. So when you got like breaks, that's what we call 16th bursts, okay? So for example, say you've got a bunch of eights going da 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 da, and then in between the eights you got da 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 da. That's known as a 16th burst, okay, or a burst of notes. It's not a stream. A stream is just constantly ongoing for the full measure, or the majority of the measure, okay. As well as that, you've got like triplets, which are, well, you can't see in this, but a triplet is the same sort of thing. Like instead of having constant notes, you've just got 3 of a certain notation. So for example, if you've got triplets of 8s, you got da 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 da. Notice how there's a beat missing. Instead of going da 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 da, it's da 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 da. And once again, with 16ths, you've got 16th triplets, which is da, which you hear quite often, like that da 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 da. You get that pattern very often. So those are known as triplets. So 16th triplets or 8th triplets, things like that. Okay, so that's the basics, right? The basics of the timing. So you got streams, bursts, and triplets of those notations of quarter, eighth, and 16th. When it gets a little bit more tricky, you start seeing other patterns emerge. So this is what we know as 4/4 timing in music. And 4/4 timing is, just as I explained, in every measure, like every set of bars, there are 4 notes, right? And those will always be divisible by 4. So for example, 8 is divisible by 4. 16 is divisible by 4. What we have next is the thing which they refer to as 4/3 timing. And 4/3 timing is when you've got 3 notes as opposed to 4. So it's a little bit different. And most people are like, okay, I don't understand this at all. What the hell is 4/3 timing? I mean, I didn't understand it at all when I was learning in music class. But when you hear it, you can hear a difference. So I've pulled up another chart. This is Crazy Keno another. This is a section of Crazy Keno which uses what we call 12th notes. So we've got 4th, 8th, 16ths. This is 12th notes here. Now, you sort of go, okay, I don't really understand the point that you're trying to get here, but I'll try and explain it, okay? So, with 16ths, you've got da 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 da, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in the measure that you've got, right? This is known as 12th notes, and 12th notes is, instead of 4 notes, you've got 3 notes. So instead of that, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah? Instead of... So 12th notes are sort of a slower version. It's 3 notes in each part instead of 4. Da 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 da, like that. Okay? You see 12th notes come in some songs, such as Crazy Keno, to just sort of break the rhythm and add a little bit of variety. I like playing 12th notes a lot. They feel very fun to play once you understand them. Another few songs which have them are like Polynosis. There's a section in Polynosis that's all 12s. And there's songs themselves which are entirely 12s, such as Vanessa, Bitter Chocolate Striker. So if you try and hit that as 16ths or 8s, then you'll be completely off. That's why I wanted to highlight this, because knowing when there are 12th note sections can actually help you to time it a lot better. So those are 12th notes. Once again, if you step it up, to double, just like you do with 8s to 16ths, we have 24ths, which are evident in Snowstorm and Other here. This is the part just after the break, you know, this part. Yeah. So that middle section of Snowstorm, those are 24ths, which once again is just 12th notes scaled up times 2. So you got I can't do it accurately without actually having the notes on screen, but it's just double the notes. It's just double the 12th timing. And once you figure that out, it's very straightforward, because then you sort of go, okay, well, okay, this section is a 12th section. This section has 24ths in it. Going up further from that, you have 30 seconds. I don't think there's 64ths. 64ths are like way fast. That's like 4 times as fast as 16ths, which is just insane. But I do know one song where they use 30 seconds, and that's Liberation. And here's a video of Donovan playing Liberation. There's one section of 30 seconds in this, which Donovan's very good at. Okay, so as you saw there, that was twice as fast as 16th notes. So if you've got da 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 da, once again, just double it. And yeah, it's twice as fast. I don't think there's many songs that use 30 seconds. This is one of the few songs which actually uses them. And I wanted to use it to point out just the notation. So 30 seconds are, once again, just twice as fast. So when you've got those basics down, that sort of rhetoric or mentality or whatever, that terminology is used across most video games, music video games and stuff. So, like, if you talk to a Step Mania player and say, oh, you know that section with the 16th streams, they'll understand. They'll go, oh, okay, yeah, I understand what they're talking about. So that's just basic music notation. Obviously, it goes much further. I only have basic knowledge about it, but that's all you really need for 2DX, I think. Right, so let's get into some 2DX specific terminology, which a lot of people sort of don't understand, or well, a lot of people sort of get confused about. I'll start with the very basic stuff, and I'll try and move up from there. Oh, there was one more thing which I forgot to mention. So the other thing which you see, which cannot be classified in those sorts of terminologies, you know, 8ths, 24ths, 12ths, 16ths, all of that stuff, is swung timing. And I wanted to use lights as an example. So the bit I wanted to point out was here. That timing. And that timing is some of the most difficult stuff in the game because, you know, if it was 8ths, it would just be da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. But that's what we call swung timing, sort of skip beats. And that's when you sort of have, instead of an 8th, 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 you've got 8th, then maybe 12th and 8th, or 8th and then, you know, 24th and 8th. So it's like that timing is really hard to get down. It took me a long time to sort of comprehend how to segregate the notes to do that. And swung timing is probably some of the hardest timing in the game. Some examples, stuff like dual control, stuff like the newest song, Travelogue, or Swingholic. That song is so hard to time just because it is all those sort of swung notes. It's not sort of conventional timing. And those are probably the hardest things to time in the game. If there's a 12 that's just like all swung, I would hate my life because I wouldn't be able to time it at all. Anyways, yeah, so swing timing is just when it's unconventional. It's not following the same sort of divisible music notation as I've mentioned in the earlier part of the video. Okay, so let's move on to 2DX terminology. The first one is jacks, or jackhammers as they were referred to originally. What is a jack? Well, Jack Another and Jack Hyper don't really explain this too well. But I wanted to show you this. This is Innocent Walls. My head might be in the way of that one. But if you watch on the one player side in a second, we'll skip ahead a little bit. Jacks are when you have 2 notes. Ooh, what the hell? Okay, the hyper is like not anything like the another, so I'm gonna have to wait for a second. Anyway, when you've got 2 successive 16th notes on a key, on the same key, and you've got to hit them very fast, this is what we call a jack. So as you can see on the 6th key, on the 1P, like that, you gotta double tap very fast. That's what's known as a jack. And jacks are, once again, one of the more difficult things to time in the game. And a lot of people complain saying, oh, I'm no good at jacks, how do I get better at jacks? Well, I think honestly with jacks, you've just got to hit harder. I mean, I'm also not that great at jacks. It's not one of my strong points, but you know, for jacks and things like that, you got to hit a little bit harder when you've got those 2 notes. It really helps to just practice them. Obviously, S random helps a lot with jacks. But yeah, when you got two notes, you gotta hit a lot harder, and it is a lot harder to keep time when you gotta hit two notes at the same time because you're basically hitting well twice as fast as you normally have to, and it can really screw up your timing. So jacks are one of the tricky things in the game, which you gotta keep an eye out for. Okay, moving on, we've got scales. Now scales, obviously, I picked Kakame here. So a scale is when you've got notes that go sort of white key, black key, white key, black key like this, okay? And scales are notoriously difficult for people who are just starting because they say, oh, I have no idea how you're supposed to follow, white key to black key. And I don't know what advice I can really give for scales. I at the start tried to skip away from scales. I didn't really like doing them. And I found just the more I played on random, and the more I got exposed to them, the more familiar you become with the patterns, and the easier and more manageable scales become over time. So, even though people say, oh, that's a really scaly pattern, for most good players, it doesn't really matter if you get a scale in there, because you have so much experience doing scales like this that it's not really a problem. So if you want to get better at scales, I'd say just practice them. I mean, there's no tricks to doing scales. You just have to keep at it. You have to keep trying to comprehend each individual section and get accurate at them. So yeah, scales are when it's going up and down the keys from black to white, or white to black to white to black. Just like this, Kakame. Alright, the next thing is a double scale, and you think, okay, so that means there's just like two scales in a row. No, a double scale is something like this in double A, which is just really painful. This section here. So a double scale is when you have two successive scales going at the same time, and this and scripted connection has this pattern where you've got sort of like two scales going in the measure at the same time, and it is really rough to do these. Most players get around this by using random. Double scales are extremely difficult to time, so yeah, most people just throw in random and hope that they get a pattern that isn't too scaly. But yeah, double scales are basically just scales doubled. So it's not two scales, it's two scales jammed into one another. And I'll play that again just to show you how stupid it is. So, a normal scale is pretty manageable, but a double scale is really rough. And I remember Taisuke talking about double scales in at the location tests. The new Prim song has double scales in it, and it was just like, oh, not double scales, because he hates them. It's like the bane of every player, seeing a double scale. So the only way you can work around it is by randoming it, or, as I said before, with normal scales, you just learn how to approach them and get better at them. I mean, there's no real trick to them. But yeah, that's a double scale. So we have standard scales and double scales. Right, next on the list is symmetrical patterns. Now, I'm pretty sure I had, yes, a video for symmetrical patterns. Ironically, or as unironic it is, I don't know the proper word, but I chose the song Symmetry because it's got a beautiful symmetric pattern in it here. As you can see, on both sides of the keys you're doing the same thing. So you're hitting like the same pattern going in and out. So a lot of people have commented on this chart saying, wow, it's so symmetrical. But yeah, so it's just both of your hands doing the same thing. So that's a good example of like a symmetrical pattern. Symmetrical patterns are pretty easy to get down. You see them a lot of the time in non-random. So I find if people have been playing mostly non-random, you'll encounter this quite often. Symmetrical patterns are they're okay. I mean, I don't think they're too difficult, so long as you stay on top of them and so long as you have a technique which is reasonably symmetrical. You can handle this quite easily. There's some scales in there as well. But yeah, symmetrical patterns they're okay. They're not too difficult. Ooh, double staircases there. So I haven't seen this chart non-random in a long time, so I'm just interested to see. But there you go. That's what a symmetrical pattern looks like. If you ever wanted a good example, this song just like highlights it perfectly. So yeah, symmetrical patterns, just the same thing happening across both hands. Okay, so the next thing that I need to cover is rolls. Oh, rolls, rolls, rolls. Where are you? Here. So a roll is a terminology that you use for when you have a 16th pattern or above, and that pattern is just on two keys, just like this. So notice how it's all on 2 and 3, like that. So that is what we call a roll. This is the longest roll in the game. I think it's like 12 seconds long, or something like that, or 12 measures long. But basically, it's just alternating hands across two keys on a 16th or above pattern. So that was a roll in R5, just... And those are also notoriously difficult to time because you have to, maintain timing on two keys, and a lot of people find that difficult to do, especially when you get extra notes added in on top of it. Rolls are evident in stuff like Let the Track Flow, another, what's that one, Beastie Starter, things like that. They're notoriously hard to time because of the rolls, and when you get sort of those rolls on bad keys, for example 1, 2, where you have to use one hand, it is very difficult to time them. So good advice that I can give for rolls is try and use two hands across them. And that's when sort of having versatile technique really helps out. Because say, for example, here in Rubinex's video, as you can see, he gets the roll on 2 and 3, and he doesn't normally use his thumb on 3, but he's brought it across just so that he can tackle the roll. And as you can see, he's timing it quite well, just because he's brought it across. If he tried to do that on his index and thumb finger, he'd have a lot of trouble, just because keeping time on one hand is quite difficult to do, especially for a roll as long as R5. Now this brings up an interesting point, because people mention this other thing called trills, and you're like, okay, what's a trill? Now if I go back to Donovan's video here, a trill is basically just... That's what we refer to as a trill. A trill is basically just a really fast roll. And, it's just over a short section, like less than a measure. I mean, I think Liberations is it a full measure? I can't remember. Either way, a trill is just a faster roll. It's a roll that's very, very fast for a short period. So it's just like, and then you keep playing whatever you're playing. So when they say like, oh, he nailed that trill very well, it's just a very, very fast roll that they're doing. Okay? So what happens when you get two rolls in succession? So for example, something like this chart V2, right? I'm just going to pull back a little bit here. Okay. I don't know if... Yeah, okay. The bit that's coming up here, or maybe here. So there we go. We've got two rolls going, right? We refer to this as a butterfly pattern, which will come up later on, not just here. But when you got two rolls, we refer to that as a butterfly, okay? And butterflies can be good or bad, depending on where you get them. So I'll just quickly show you an example of where butterflies can be very, very bad, going here to KAC. This is a butterfly pattern here. So as you can see, he's got 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. So when it's very, very close together and two notes on the outside, that's what we refer to as a butterfly. Because if you look at the pattern of it, it's sort of like butterfly wings on the side of like a body. And butterfly patterns can be okay at times, but if Nari had got the 4 key a little bit closer, sorry, I think I've got this term wrong, but if you get notes crunched up very close to one another, so for example 1, 2, 3, 4, if you'd moved this column to the 4 key, that would have been a very, very difficult pattern to do, because it basically means that you have to do half the roll on one hand, and as I've just said, when you're trying to do a roll on one hand, it's very difficult to time. So butterfly patterns are one of the worst patterns that you can get when you're playing. And when you say, oh man, I got a butterfly random in the middle of something like V2, that means that that part there, is like all scrunched together on one hand. So for example, if it's 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's just like alternating between the two, it's like, okay, that's one of the worst one-player butterfly randoms you can get. So butterfly random refers to when you've got two notes, all of the notes scrunched up and you've got two notes very together and the two notes spaced beside them, because it means there's no easy way to hit it. If it was like you know, 4, 5, and 6 and 7, you can bring a hand across and just go da 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 da. You can just slap it. Whereas with a butterfly, you've got no hope. It's like, well, you just gotta jam as hard as you can. Okay, so on top of that, you've also got these other patterns which we call denim rolls, which come up a little bit further on. I'll try and highlight them here. So a denim roll, which is very obvious in the song Denim, and like these rolls come up quite often, is stuff like this, where, yeah, like that, where you've got sort of 3 keys and then you've got 2 keys on top of it. So it's just like white key, black key, black key. That's what we refer to as a denim roll. And that kind of roll is also very difficult to tackle if you've got it on just one hand, because you basically got to roll your hand like that. And it's one of the tougher things to time. I'm absolutely shocking at denim rolls. I can't do them for the life of me. But yeah, as you go on, this chart has a lot of those like really nasty patterns, and that's why people have said that V2 is notoriously hard to time, because it's got a lot of those really difficult patterns in it. Like that's a denim roll there. So that is really, really tough to time. So denim rolls, butterflies, really, like, they show up quite often when you've got sort of double rolls, as we call butterfly patterns. The best thing that you can get for those is what we refer to as a slap random. And what do I mean by slap random? I'll try and pick out a video real quick for you. Just give me a second to browse through. But basically, if you manage to get lucky, if you use random and you manage to pull a video, not a video, sorry, I'm reading what's on the screen. If you manage to pull all of the notes on one hand, then you get what we call a slap random. And I'm gonna, oh man, I have to go through so many videos to find this. Where are you? Oh, long time ago. A slap random is basically when you can just alternate your hands across the keys in order to hit the pattern. And I'm trying to find, where is that video? I had a really good video. Here we go. Alright, so this is an example of a slap random. This was Go Beyond. This was my Go Beyond random when I first hard cleared it. This is my first hard clear. And the only reason why I could hard clear Go Beyond is because I got a slap random on it. And as I said, a slap is... Sorry, I'll put the sound out a little bit. Okay, so here we go. After the break here, so you guys probably know Go Beyond. It's a very famous song. It's very, very difficult to approach. And basically in this random, I just get it across the 2 hands and I can just slap between them. See, if it was like patterns in between where I had to move my hands around, it would have been much more difficult to time. I would have dropped a lot more notes. So as you can see here, this is like the best random I've ever got in the world. As you can see, it's just across the 2 hands. It's very, very easy to hit patterns like that. So that's what we refer to as a slap random. So if you've got like Negeki no Ki or something like that, where it's just like, you know, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 on one player side, then you can just go da 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 da, and it's easier to time. But it's really interesting because when people know that they're going to get a random like that, like a solid slap random, you find that a lot of people screw them up really badly. One case in point was when I was playing with Toshia. We played V another, and he managed to get the 2-player slap random. He got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, like that. And for 2P, that's perfect. But he completely screwed it up because he mashed it either a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow. He just got like all goods. And this brings me to another little definition, which I think Derek will like me pointing out. I'm just going to go to my channel really quickly. This is sort of more like sort of in joke or in group sort of definitions, but here we go. I'm just gonna pull out my One More Lovely video because this is a thing that Derek introduced, and I think it's just becoming more and more popular just between the top players. But if you do really well at a song, for example, One More Lovely, I was killing One More Lovely. I was in like 93-94% ratio sort of range for score. And then, you know, you're doing really well, you've got a beautiful random like this one. This random was amazing. Our random, by the way. But when you suddenly do things like this... That's what we call a due moment. And a due moment basically just refers to when you're doing extremely well, like way better than you normally do, and then you just outright fail something, or you just slip up. Like if you're full comboing a 12, and then in the last like 4 or 5 measures you get a miss. Or as you saw, like you EX fail one more lovely in the second to last measure. It's just like, oh, such a due moment, right? So there's a few definitions that I wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully that's cleared it up. A lot of the misconceptions or confusions that people have had over the past, over what's what. But if I have got something wrong, as I said, nothing's perfect. I'm just going off what I know or how I explain things. If something is wrong, then feel free to post in the comments and say, well, you got this completely wrong, and I'd be more than happy to amend it in the video. But that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching this video, and keep slapping those buttons to proper musical notation. Bye for now.